To those wondering about the male APs your wives are cheating with. Male mate poachers aren't big-time male studs. They're cowards and weaklings with severe masculinity issues. They aren't attracted to your wives. Their sexual attraction is wholly to marriages. They sexually, emotionally get off on being prioritized above husbands and children. They view men who can attract single women well enough to establish long-term relationships as being overly privileged and wholly responsible for their failure in the competitive singles market. In every case they need to bad-mouth you to your wives behind your backs while never being masculine enough to say anything at all to another man's face. They're almost always going to be coworkers, so there is no shortage of super easy to get married chicks who have no standards. A case in point. I worked with a guy in a state prison who might have been the ultimate stud king of the mate poachers. The boy had a thing for impregnating the below-average looking married nurses at medical, female officers, certified officer trainees he was unfortunately in charge of as an FTO, etc. He was always disrespecting the husbands behind their backs with tough guy talk and bragging to virtually everyone about the latest married chick he got. He was always going on about how women needed a real man and how badly he was going to brutalize any of the husbands who had a problem with it. He sometimes bragged about sending anonymous letters to husbands on a few occasions when his newly acquired property wouldn't divorce to be with him. Thanks to that he was paying child support. Several married co-workers passed him around and fought over him, which always provided plenty of pathetic workplace drama for everyone else to spectate. He was far from being a candidate for a fireman calendar, but he was always getting action because the cheats tend to notice any bone that has value to another dog. The single women at work avoided him like the plague as much as he chased them anyway. 4 I know of sued and got settlements. He was a short, fat, severely learning disabled. He was still working on his GED when I left the job, bald before 30 moron who got checked by inmates and male officers alike on a fairly regular basis. Picture a younger Uncle Fester with a belly that drooped over his belt and hid his little noodle from him throughout his life. He owed child support to at least 5 women I knew of. He constantly whined about how broke he was and how unreasonable the mates he poached were to anyone who would listen. He was constantly giving advice on how to be a real stud with the ladies to younger officers too. If we weren't so horribly understaffed he wouldn't have been tolerated. Unfortunately, that industry has to desperately accept even the most pathetic examples of human failure because every shift is mostly staffed by the previous shift. One night he got caught having sex with one of the married nurses in the infirmary closet by another married nurse he was also having sex with. There was a pretty nasty cat fight that resulted in the assigned medical officer and one of older inmates getting scratched up while separating them. The nurses had to be suspended without pay while he was just talked to about his on-the-clock activities by the warden. That ended up spiraling into another fight in the parking lot between another 50-something married nurse and our also married overweight recruiter the next day because they were also sleeping with him. Both of them had to be suspended as well. In the prison industry, an unpaid suspension is referred to as being put on the porch. About a month before I finally escaped from that miserable job, he had to show us all what he could do to a female husband while we were all leaving shift after a typical double. One of the husband punks he ran his mouth about to everyone at work was waiting for him next to his car in the parking lot. The conquered wife was a young newly hired LPN who had only been there about a month. He sure did do an impressive amount of damage to that husband's fists with his face. It was a most unusual fighting strategy that didn't seem to be very effective in my personal opinion. He changed up his deceptive ninja fighting strategy with laying down on the pavement and curling up into a fetal position so he could vandalize the husband's shoes as an added insult. Strangely, this strategy didn't seem to faze the husband as much as one might think. I think he was too angry to care about damaging his shoes. We all just spectated with a front row seat to a match that resembled Mike Tyson taking on a white overweight version of Steve Urkel. In the end he got an ambulance ride as a reward for his big-time male performance. As an impressive finisher he did wow us all by snitching to the cops with plenty of sniffles and boogery blubbering. None of us saw anything, so we turned out to be bad witnesses. I don't know what happened to him after that because he went out on FMLA for a while. I hope that husband got off though.